pulling yourself out so that now you were in this beautiful, nice, constrained, dark place, and now suddenly, when you look over this way, it's the whole world.
Was it as extraordinary as you imagined?
It was more, far more vision. I mean, I trained for this. I trained in a virtual reality simulator. I trained underwater for hundreds of hours. I thought about it. I knew everything about my suit, but I had not prepared for how beautiful the world is, and the ability to see it in a glance, to be able to see from Cairo to Lake Victoria in one glance, and over my other shoulder to be able to see all the way from here to forever, just looking at the bottom of that, I mean, where it's below you.
Can you make out anything other than sort of that sense that you're looking at a globe?
Oh, no, you can see the Sky Dome. I mean, you can see Toronto Harbor. You can see anything that has a really regular, it's not called the Sky Dome anymore, is it? It's called the Rogers Center. You can see, at the time it was called the Sky Dome. You can see anything that has a really regular shape and a color difference. So circular stadiums stand out. You can see the Highway 1 cutting across Canada because it cuts across the natural angle of the land. Vancouver Harbor shows out really clearly. Halifax Harbor, those type of things you can see.
So few people in the world have ever been in space. Did it change you spiritually?
We talk about that on Orbit a lot because it's a natural dinner conversation, right? You know, and we have a lot of different faiths because we have astronauts from all around the world. And when we talk about it on Orbit, you know, when the first guys went to the moon and they came back, it was such a huge difference in their life, and they didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And they could cover up the world with their thumb, you know, and cover up 6 billion people with their thumb and just be alone in the universe. And so for some of them, they just hadn't thought about it in advance, and they came back to Earth with a completely different perspective on their place in the world and their fundamental beliefs. But for us, we got to talk to those guys and everybody in between, and we talk to each other. And so you don't get to be an astronaut by being wishy-washy about anything. Everybody's got some sort of solid belief system that gives them strength.
And yours
they make
at the core of your belief system?
It deepens it. This experience reaffirms to you that this is what gives me strength. This is what made all this possible, and it is a deeply reaffirming experience, no matter what you believe.
And would you share with us what's at the very core of your belief system?
My very core is human spirit. I believe in the absolute necessity to be honest with yourself and to make the most of yourself. You have been given an incredible gift just to be alive, and if you don't use it, if you don't challenge yourself to make the absolute most of your own given capabilities, then you're not only doing a disservice to yourself, but it's like a fundamental insult to everybody that ever tried to teach you something or give you a talent or a skill in history. And it's been an impetus my whole life. How can I do the best with the things that I was given? And that is so reinforced when you get a chance to see something as miraculous as our world every 90 minutes.
Wow, amazing. Two more quick ones, and then I'm going to open up. Go ahead. Go
Young
ahead.
lady. Young man. Sorry, my apologies.
Do you have any problems other than the ammonia leak? Do you have like any other?
Sure. What's your name?
Paul.
Paul asked, did we have any other problems besides the ammonia leak? Paul, we had problems every single day. Flying in space is really hard, and it's a big, complicated spaceship. I would say our two biggest problems, one day the space station is run by computers, and one day all of that system locked up, and we basically lost complete control of the space station. And so I was trying to talk to people using a ham radio in Brazil, so I was trying to get someone who could talk to me, and I didn't speak any Portuguese. We were rushing down to the Russian segment to try and use the radios there. We had to use a backup computer program and basically sort of reprogram and reboot our whole spaceship. And so for several hours we couldn't talk to the ground. And let's see, what else was a serious problem? One day, while I was getting the Russians ready to go out on a spacewalk, the toilet broke. And it doesn't seem like a real problem, but without a toilet, within a few hours, you're going to be facing a real serious problem. And I was by myself at this time because everyone else was tied up doing other stuff. So I had to split my time between getting two people ready to go out on a spacewalk with all of their checklists and the emergency procedures and closing up hatches, and then racing down to the American segment and digging arms deep into fixing and rebuilding the whole central pump system of a toilet, and back and forth, speaking Russian with the Russians, getting them all outside safely, back, fixing the toilet again, getting it all fixed up. And after about 3 hours, I had the Russians safely outside, hadn't messed up any procedures, no leaks, they were out working on their spacewalk, and when I threw the switch on the wall, the toilet went, it was working perfectly. So it doesn't sound like much of a problem, but it was, for me, it was probably one of the proudest days I ever had in space. It was the day that I got a spacewalk underway and fixed the toilet.
What's the status right now of the space, what's the status of space exploration, and what's the next big frontier?
Something probably to remember is that we left Earth permanently on this space station 13 years ago next month. We have been off the planet steady as a species on this space station for the last 13 years. And if you count the Russian experience for 2 or 3 decades, we as a species have started to leave Earth. And we sort of forget that, you know. You think that, oh, well, they walked on the moon, and what have we done since then? Well, since then, we left the planet permanently, and we're learning how to go further and further. So that is one of the big efforts, and the space station is our first great outpost in space. And meanwhile, we have a rover driving around on Mars called Curiosity that found that in every cubic foot of dirt on Mars, there's a liter of water. So Mars has oceans of water, and Mars has the biggest volcano in the solar system. And anywhere on Earth that you have heat and water, you have life. And we are looking for life on Mars. If we can find life on Mars, we know there's life here, then there's life everywhere in the universe. We have probes going to every single planet. We, within the last 10 years, have actually seen planets around other stars. We've seen and identified over 1,000 planets, that we've seen other planets around other stars. And we still don't even know what 95% of the universe is made of. We don't even know what the material is. We can only see 5% of what the universe is made of. We are just at the dawn of starting to understand everything else. We kind of think we're really important, and we understand there's nothing left to be invented. But we are just taking our first baby steps away from the cradle right now. And I've been so delighted to be in the thick of it right now.
Do you imagine space tourism becoming an actual reality in your lifetime or the lifetime of your children?
There have already been 8
Richard
people.
Branson's at it. Elon Musk is at it.
There have already been 8 wealthy people that have flown on the Soyuz up to the space station, including one Canadian, Guy Laliberté, who started.
He went, yes.
I mean, Guy started with nothing. He invented and created Cirque du Soleil. He made a lot of money for a lot of people, including himself, and he spent some of it to indulge his. He's born 3 or 4 days after I was. We both dreamed about being astronauts as kids, and he had a chance to make his dream come true by his own creativity and his own wealth. And he was one of the very first space tourists, and he loved the experience, of course. But there are people that are trying to make it more accessible. And Richard Branson is the bravest and most successful at that. He's building a vehicle that will take people up to space and give them the sensation, weightlessness for several minutes, be able to see the curve of the Earth, be able to see the blackness of space. And there are a bunch, it's still very expensive, but it's a lot less expensive than what Guy spent. And it's part of the process. Someone has to do it first. And what Richard Branson is doing with Virgin Galactic is that first really risky step to try and make that happen. And hopefully he'll be flying within about a year, and regular people will be able to buy a ticket. Wealthy people, but untrained people, people that haven't made it their career, will be able to buy a ticket and with a few days fly in space. And as we invent more things and figure it out more and more, that will become more and more commonplace. Just like aviation 100 years ago. We just have to make some inventions so that, yes, I very much believe that space tourism will become a common thing. We're like in the steam era or the sail era of spaceflight.
Is Canada doing enough, in your opinion, to contribute to the further exploration of space?
In order to answer that question, you kind of have to put it into perspective. We are doing better than any other country in the world that I know of for the amount of money that we spend on spaceflight and the return that we get for a dollar. We have all sorts of great examples of that. The Canadarm is a great example. I'll do a quick summary. In the early 60s, Canada, we were the third nation on Earth in space with a satellite called Alouette. On it had this little tiny primitive arm called STEM. Because of that, a company was formed named SPAR, Special Projects and Research. SPAR was invited in 1974 to build the Canadarm for the space shuttle. They built the Canadarm for the shuttle. It did all those miraculous things, launching the Hubble telescope. That got our first invitation to have Canadian astronauts. That's why Marc Garneau and Roberta Bondar and everybody flew. And then that got us the invitation to build the arm for the space station. And Canadarm built the space station. Canada built the space station that's up there. That's how I had a chance to fly in space, because of that. That's how I became commander of the spaceship, because of that. And then the technology that built Canadarm2 is now used in a hospital in Calgary to do brain surgery inside an MRI. There's a surgeon sits in another room with 2 hand controllers. He operates this neuro arm, and it removes tumors. You can do remote robotic surgery on patients who have brain tumors, and the surgeon can watch what he's doing inside an MRI machine, and it's totally the grandchild of the technology that was developed for the Canadian.
So are we doing
for the
enough
Canadarm.
now?
So that is an example of a long-term, evenly funded success story that almost no other country could claim for the amount of money we put into. And Canada is right now looking at what is the next Canadarm. Trying to look at what the Americans are doing, what the Chinese are doing, because they've stated very strongly that they're going to the moon. And the new president of the Canadian Space Agency has been to China to talk with them. He's working really hard. We could always use more money. But at the same time, people don't need to despair. Canada gets a lot of bang for the buck, and we do really good work in space exploration and space flight.
Given what you know that
Take pride in it.
given what you know contributing to this can do to accelerate technological knowledge, technological advantage in Canada, the pride of Canada, if you were Prime Minister, would you, seriously, if you were Prime Minister, would you imagine contributing more to, I mean, there's always a limited amount of money, there's only so many priorities you can pick. If you were Prime Minister, would you consider being more aggressive with contribution a meaningful priority, given what you know?
I think we want to make decisions in space exploration that are good for Canada. That should be our prime objective. And to me, the next obvious logical destination is the moon. We're building a space station. Mars is a long, long ways away. The moon is 3 days away. It's a great, alluring, natural place to go invent and learn all the things we need to learn to go further. And what I think Canada should do is look at the technologies that we need on the moon, that are going to allow us to be partners in the international effort to go to the moon. We need power generation. We need in situ resource management, mining through remote vehicles. We need navigation. We need radiation protection. All of those things are available to Canada to choose from. And we could become the world's expert in one of those areas. And when China starts going to the moon, or the United States decides to go to the moon, Canada can stand up and say, we have the technology developed inside our country that can enable you to go, and we are going to be part of it. And someone who's walking on the moon is going to be from Canada as a result of that. And I think we just need to stand up and pick which one of those and commit some money to it. And David Emerson, who wrote the Emerson Report a little over a year ago, just a month ago, said, why don't we spend over the next 20 years about $1 billion a year and commit it to aerospace, commit it to space exploration. I mean, what did we spend $1 billion
Which
on
isn't very much money.
Compared to our budget? In 1994, think of all the things that we spent money on that we can't even remember where the money went. This is an inspirational thing. You can look at what happened with the Canadarm as an example of how it becomes a seed for so many other things, and it would put us in a position to then be a super active and productive, but also harvesting partner and everything that comes from that. So I support his recommendation very much.
You're a fully retired astronaut now, right? You're not going back into space.
I worked for the government for 35 years, and I retired from the government in July. So yeah, I won't fly again as a Canadian Space Agency
You're
astronaut.
fully retired.
I am fully retired.
You're fully done writing your book.
I am fully done writing this book.
You're almost going to be done on the book tour. Almost. Not quite.
I'm getting there.
Right, I'm going somewhere here.
I sense that.
I just want to say, as one Canadian, I think your next job should be running for leader of one of the parties in this country. We could use you at all. And I'm not shy to say that boldly. I can't imagine anything better for Canada than for you to become a leader in this country. Do we agree? Chris,
Thank you so
it has been
much.
an absolute pleasure to have you. Truly an honor to be sitting here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much. It's a delight to be back. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to say, everybody, we usually do questions. Sorry about that. I wasn't prepared enough here, and I dropped my papers.
Gravity.
Thank you. We usually do questions, but there's so many people who want to get their book signed tonight, and it will be so special to get your book signed. If you agree, we're going to set you up here on a table. We're going to put your rocket ship beside you, and we're going to let you all sign some books. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful evening.